Hello, everybody, and welcome to the very last discussion board for this class. For this discussion board, I chose to focus on the rise of non denominational churches in America. And I decided to take a look at the history. How did they start? Why are they appealing? And what I discovered is it was a little bit interesting. So, we have been searching and learning about the history of the church in America, and we've seen how it can unfold and evolve from how Christ set the church up with his disciples to Roman Catholicism to the Protestant Reformation to then the forming of many different denominations. We've got Baptist and Methodist and Lutheran and all of these denominations, and it has been quite the ride of watching this Christianity unfold in America. And non denominational churches are no different. So basically, people began to realize they didn't necessarily want it to be connected to a denomination. Being part of or being a Christian in America was very typical of, well, what kind of a Christian are you? What is your denominational affiliation? And people sort of like felt this need to have to fit into one of those. Well, I'm Methodist, I'm Lutheran, I'm Catholic, I'm, whatever it is. And somewhere along the way, people started to think, well, maybe we don't have to do that. Maybe we can just believe in the Bible. Maybe we can just preach the gospel. And the first non denominational church actually started back in 1935 with the Presbyterian Church in Memphis. 65 of its members broke off and formed the non denominational Evangelical Community Church. And this was, as far as I can tell, the very first non denominational church in America. And this one church was just a tiny drop in the bucket of the non-denominational churches today. By 1990, there were 200,000 people who classified as non-denominational in the census. In 2008, there were more than 8 million. And today, 1 in 6 people claim to be affiliated with a non-denominational church. So what does it mean to be non-denominational? These are churches that do not want to be tied to a particular doctrine. They choose to believe or use the Bible as their authority. And most of the churches that I looked into had what was called a statement of faith, which was a very brief overview of what they choose to believe in that church. Surprisingly, most of them had a very fundamental sort of belief system. Things like Christ's deity, his virgin birth, his death and resurrection. Most of them supported baptism by immersion, and of course, salvation through faith in Christ. So like I said, most of them still had a very Protestant sort of feel to them, but didn't have a set of doctrines necessarily. Now, because they didn't have a set of doctrines, and each church is individual, they tend to gather quite a following. And these churches have, most of them have several members, and eventually have thousands of members. And this non-denominational movement gave rise to what is known as megachurches. Megachurches have thousands of members that adhere to that set of statement of faith. And the reason for this is because instead of running the risk of creating a new denomination by planting new churches, they just draw more people in and have these really large churches. So that is one of the reasons that the megachurches have become so abundant here, is to sort of stop that denominational growth. I thought that was a very interesting fact. I did not know that. But there is some downfalls to the non-denomination as well. Because each church is responsible for their own statement of faith and their own set of beliefs, you really do need to be careful about what they really truly believe. So make sure that you research the churches that you're looking into and that you really know what they are claiming to believe, and that it aligns with what you also believe. Because they're not all the same, of course. We're free here to believe what we want. So that I would say one of the negative things about the non-denomination is that it's not necessarily always the same belief from one church to another. But that being said, today the non-denominational churches are rapidly growing, and people are continuing to leave traditional denominations all of the time. And this is actually, I believe, the fastest growing church in America is non-denominational. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope you all have a wonderful weekend.